Ready for a journey to Middle-earth. We're going deep, deep into Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. But this isn't like your average book club, all right? We're talking about those little details you can miss, the ones that tell a much, much bigger story. So we're digging into the text, like finding those secret Easter eggs in a video game, But instead of a bonus level, we unlock Tolkien's genius.
I like that, unlocking Tolkien's genius.
Right, so get ready, because who knows, you might just win your next Tolkien trivia night. Let's start with hobbits. Everybody loves them, right? Shire, gardens, second breakfast, homebodies. But what if I told you their history is, well, a bit more adventurous? The book says their earliest stories, well, seem to glimpse a time when they dwelt in the upper vales of Anduin, between the eaves of Greenwood the Great and the Misty Mountains. That doesn't sound very Shire-like, does it? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a fascinating little detail. It could mean they migrated, and not some easy journey either. The Anduin Vale is quite a ways from the Shire.
They had to go over the Misty Mountains, right?
Exactly, and Tolkien makes it clear those mountains are hard and perilous. So this tiny detail hints at a past, well, a lot more interesting than people realize.
So like Middle-earth nomads before the Shire.
Not quite nomads, but something made them move. The book mentions the multiplying of men in the land and of a shadow that fell on the forest so that it became darkened, and its new name was Mirkwood.
A shadow on the forest. That's ominous.
Right. It connects to the whole story how Sauron's power was growing in Middle-earth. So even the hobbits, they're tied to this ancient, bigger picture.
So they were, what, refugees from Sauron? Wow. Makes you wonder what stories they told back then. Speaking of shadows and things best left alone, what about Bilbo and that one ring? Just pure luck, yeah. Right place, right time, boom, magic ring. But I reread it, and I'm not so sure about the luck part anymore. When Gollum almost had Bilbo, the ring slipped quietly onto his finger. Slipped. What do you think? Doesn't seem so accidental now, huh?
Good catch. Tolkien, he chose his words very carefully, especially about the ring. Slipped makes it sound like, well, like the ring wanted to be found, like it had his own plan.
The ring slipped on. Okay, now that's just creepy. You know who I bet wasn't fooled? Gandalf. That guy was on to Bilbo's story from the start.
Oh, absolutely. Gandalf, he suspected something was off about that ring. Remember what he said about Bilbo? When I at last got the truth out of him, I saw at once that he had been trying to put his claim to the ring beyond doubt, much like Gollum with his birthday present.
Right. Like, oh, this.
Yeah.
Just a birthday present, nothing to see here, definitely not some super powerful artifact.
Yeah.
But seriously, it was that similarity that worried Gandalf. How both Bilbo and Gollum reacted. It showed how the ring messed with you, even someone as, well, harmless as Bilbo.
Exactly. Gandalf knew how sneaky the ring was, how it twisted your thoughts, even with good intentions. He was worried about Bilbo, and it just grew from there.
Makes you wonder, all those fireworks Gandalf loved, maybe he just wanted to chuck suspicious rings into Mount Doom.
For Frodo, and for second breakfast.
Okay, maybe not. But still, a fun thought. You know what I love? How Tolkien puts songs and poems right in the story. They're not just there for show, they're like windows into what Middle-earth is really like that Anthony style, ancient and sad. The Lay of Luthien and Beren is a great example, don't you think?
Absolutely. That story, a man and an elf princess defying fate for love, it echoes through the whole Lord of the Rings.
Especially Aragorn and Arwen, right? It's like their love story is a direct echo of Luthien and Beren.
Exactly. Aragorn descended from Beren and Arwen from Luthien. They're living out that same story with the same themes. Love versus darkness, choosing mortality or immortality, and how the past shapes the present.
It's Tolkien saying, pay attention. These old stories matter. They're not just fairy tales. They explain the world. Speaking of seeing the world differently, let's talk about Gimli. Everyone's favorite dwarf, especially when it comes to caves. Now, Helm's Deep, it's a fortress, sure, but also kind of bleak, But then Gimli says to Legolas, my good Legolas, do you know that the caverns of Helm's Deep are vast and beautiful? Vast and beautiful. I mean, was he looking at a pile of orc garbage and seeing a beautiful view? What's going on there?
It's all perspective. You and I, we see Helm's Deep as a place of war, grim, which it is. But Gimli, he sees the beauty of the caverns themselves, the natural wonder hidden there. Even in a fortress built for a last stand, there can be beauty.
That's a good point. But a part of me wonders if he was hoping for, like, a secret dwarf kingdom back there, secret passages, treasure vaults, the whole deal. Speaking of hidden things, did you ever think, what if the Fellowship just sailed west?
Tempting, isn't it? Especially with the One Ring and all that danger. Who wouldn't want to sail to the Undying Lands, leave it all behind?
Right. Endless second breakfast, no Sauron. Sounds nice.
True, but Tolkien always has layers. Remember Geldor, that elf lord at Rivendell? He warns them, if the return to Ironwain be thought too dangerous, then flight to the sea is now fraught with gravest peril.
So the easy way out was the most dangerous.
Exactly. The paths west, once safe, were not anymore. It's like Tolkien is saying, real courage isn't running away, it's facing what scares you, even when there's no easy way out.
So sometimes the best way to be brave is to go right into danger. Not exactly, comforting. But Tolkien definitely seems to think so. It reminds me how he can take something, some little detail, and suddenly it means so much more.
It's true, he does that a lot.
Like in Fellowship, when Frodo and the hobbits are getting out of the Shire and they meet Gildor, that elf lord, and he tells Frodo, "But it is not your own Shire. Others dwelt here before hobbits were, and others will dwell here again when hobbits are no more." Gives me chills. It's like even the Shire isn't safe forever.
Exactly. It's like a subtle reminder from Tolkien that nothing lasts forever. Even the Shire, it's part of a bigger change, a cycle. Like our world, Middle-earth is always changing. Nothing stays the same, even the peaceful places.
It's that this too shall pass feeling, but like Tolkien style. Even the Shire is part of history, the grand scheme. Speaking of big events, what about the Council of Elrond? That's where they decide what to do about the ring. And let me tell you, people had opinions. Boromir, for example, he had some thoughts on how to use that ring. He says, maybe they should use the ring against Sauron. Why should we not think that the great ring has come into our hands to serve us in the very hour of need? Wielding it, the free lords of the free may surely defeat the enemy. That is what he most fears, I deem. Kind of tempting, right? Fight fire with fire. But Elrond and Gandalf weren't so keen on that.
Yeah, Boromir's idea, it brings up those big questions, like can you use something bad, like the ring, for good? Elrond and Gandalf, they thought using it would just turn you into the enemy, even if you started with good intentions.
It's that question, right? Do the ends justify the means? Like if you fight evil with evil, don't you become evil too?
Exactly. Tolkien really gets into those tough choices, especially in a crisis. He doesn't make it easy. He makes you think about what those choices cost.
And that's why you need Gandalf, right? Someone to say, nope, wrong way, even if the right way is scary. Yeah. Speaking of scary, the Balrog still freaks me out. But it's how Gandalf describes that fight. He's like, those that looked up from afar thought that the mountain was crowned with storm. Thunder they heard, and lightning, they said, smote upon Celebdil and leaped back, broken into tongues of fire. Is not that enough? He's so calm about fighting a fire demon from the dawn of time.
That's our Gandalf. He gets how powerful stories are. He's fine with people thinking it was a storm, but for those in the know, it's a whole different story.
Right, like he's saying, some storms are more than bad weather, folks, which in Middle-earth is probably an understatement. Okay, from fire demons to trees. Ents, those ancient tree shepherds, man, they take their time, don't they? Forever to make a decision.
Yeah.
But when they do, epic. Is there a reason they're so slow?
The Ents, they're so connected to nature, time, it's different for them. Humans, elves, we rush around. Ents, they understand the long game, how things change over time in a way we just don't.
Slow and steady wins the race, but like Ent style.
Right. Their slowness, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. They're in tune with the world in a deep way.
Makes you think twice about complaining when a tree takes its time growing, huh? Now, Faramir, Boromir's brother. He's quieter, doesn't get as much attention as his brother, but he's got this strength. I really admire it. When he meets Frodo and Sam, he could have taken the ring. Easy. But he doesn't. He says, I would not take this thing if it lay by the highway. Not were Minas Tirith falling in ruin and I alone could save her, so using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory. Now that's willpower. What makes him so different from Boromir?
Faramir, he's a different kind of hero. He sees through the ring's tricks, he knows what it really is, and he resists it, even when it could seem like he's doing good.
Not like Boromir who, well, he got kind of seduced by that one ring power,
Yeah. Exactly. Faramir, he puts others first. Even with that pressure, he stays true. It makes him one of the most, morally strong characters in the story. He's incredible.
Faramir, he really shows you it's not always about being the strongest. It's about doing the right thing when it's tough. And speaking of tough, you can't forget Samwise Gamgee. No fancy armor or magic sword, but he's the heart of that fellowship, I swear.
He's the best of us, that's for sure.
That moment after Shelob's got them, and Sam thinks Frodo's, well, he has to decide, keep going or stay with his friend.
Yeah.
He says, if I'm to go on, then I must take your sword by your leave, Mr. Frodo, but I'll put this one to lie by you, as it lay by the old king in the barrow, and you've got your beautiful mithril coat from old Mr. Bilbo.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, how can you not love Sam?
Right. Sam's loyalty, it's incredible. To keep going even when he thinks Frodo's gone says it all. Not for glory, but love. Doing what's right, even impossible.
The friend we all need. Loyal, brave, and always up for a good meal. Now, for something a bit less cheerful, the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Big showdown with Sauron, and Aragorn right before gives that speech, one of the best ever. He's like, a day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship, but it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields when the age of men comes crashing down, but it is not this day. This day we fight. Chills every time. What is it about that speech?
Aragorn, he gets it. He knows they're scared, could lose, but he makes them believe. They're fighting for something huge, worth dying for, even against all odds.
Yeah, it's bad, but we're in this together, no giving up. That feeling, never giving up, that's universal.
Absolutely. Even when it's darkest, there's hope. We can always resist, fight for what matters.
To barrel from another world, not all those who wander are lost, right? And speaking of finding your way, that moment when Aragorn, he heals Eowyn. After the Witch King, the Black Breath, it's this amazing moment, healing, hope, all of it. Aragorn tells her, in the valleys of our hills there are flowers fair and bright, and maidens fairer still. But neither flower nor lady have I seen till now in Gondor so lovely and so sorrowful. He sees her pain, her strength, and reminds us there's still good, even after such awful things.
It's really beautiful and hopeful. Even in war, with all that despair, Aragorn shows compassion, healing. Eowyn went through something horrible, but his words remind us, even in darkness, there's always light.
Like those first signs of spring, you know. And speaking of dark journeys, we got to talk about Mordor. Frodo and Sam going into Sauron's land. That's facing your fears, man. When they get to the Black Gate, Frodo says, I am commanded to go to the land of Mordor, and therefore I shall go. If there is only one way, then I must take it. What comes after must come. He knows it's crazy, but he goes. What does that tell you about Frodo by then?
He's come so far from that hobbit who just wanted to be home. He's carrying this huge burden, facing down terror itself, but he keeps going. Duty, yes, but also just incredible courage, facing the unknown, even when it scares you to your core.
One step at a time, even when it's Mount Doom, right? Just got to focus on the next step. And maybe a snack break. Even heroes get hungry.
Always with the snacks.
So the ring's gone, Sauron's beaten, everyone's happy. Happy ending, yeah. Well, Gandalf, he has some thoughts. He tells Aragorn, go now and rest, for you have earned it. And yet the world is not at peace. Shadows linger and whispers of evil are still heard in the dark places of the world. Is Gandalf being a downer, or is there something to that?
Gandalf's always got the wisdom, right? He's saying, just because you win doesn't mean the fight's over. Evil might be quiet, but it's never really gone. Got to stay aware, remember what you learned, and be ready to fight again just as hard.
So more like to be continued than the end.
Exactly. The real test is living with that victory, taking those lessons into our lives, facing our own battles, big or small, with the same heart as Frodo and Sam.
And that's Tolkien, right? Even with orcs and ringwraiths, there's always hope, beauty, and a reason to fight for good. So, next time you're reading and you see some little detail, think about it. In Middle-earth, like life, even a pebble can hold a whole history. That's all the time we have for a deep dive today. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with another look into the world of stories and ideas. Until then, happy reading.